Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in Chicago and we're taking some photographs of a fire escape and some video training for Fire Escape Academy. We have a Roman Schlager here, a registered architect from the state of Illinois, doing a fire escape inspection here on Chicago. This is some advanced training on what to look for if you're a fire inspector, building inspector, or a housing inspector, and what some of the architects look for if you're just doing a walk from down below. So this is not a full inspection, even though on this building we're actually going to pull this down and walk up and get some additional video information about this specific fire escape. But right now, this is if you were just walking the alleyway and you looked up and you wanted to write a violation, whether it was a paint violation or a repair violation. And Roman Schlager is going to pass on some things that he looks for whenever he looks at these particular fire escapes. So, again, just for the inspectors now, not for anybody else, just for a building inspector in the city of Chicago, what should he be looking for that he can immediately write either a paint violation or a structural violation? So let's look up. We're going to deal with the paint first. What's your story here?
Well, the first thing, Cisco, is my overall impression is I like to stand in a position where my eyesight is parallel with the fire escape, and you can see whether or not it is plumb or whether the entire fire escape cage is listing to one side. In this case, it appears to be more or less plumb. However, the cantilever counterbalance staircase is definitely bent way out of shape and looks precarious.
So you're saying that this cantilever, when it comes down, you think this back piece is actually going to smack into the fire escape?
Yes, and the weight box in the back, you know, that looks...
It's got a bird nest in there.
Got a bird nest in there, exactly.
And a lot of growth. So those bolts that are holding all those cast weights,
exactly.
They're gone?
You never know, because you're talking about a tremendous amount of weight that's got to be right there, you know, 180, 200 pounds of steel.
Right.
And when that's accelerated and comes to an abrupt stop, you're putting a tremendous amount of torsion on that cantilever channel iron and can cause it to break loose.
Shake loose. It'll just come down. So, and just, you know, from practical, it's very difficult sometimes to get those bolts out. So what the repair for that is usually you wrap it in new steel. So you keep it exactly where it is, dig out as much rust as you can, encapsulate the entire rust, but then bracket it on the outside. You don't go through it anymore. You bracket it on the outside with steel bands of some kind. That basically, those are what now hold it together. Because you can't get those bolts to come out. They're frozen in there with rust. So the best you can do is, unless you tear it all apart, but then the holes won't open up anymore.
Right. Or you could replace the entire channel.
Or you can replace the entire channel. But a lot of times they won't. They'll stiffen it. They'll put a stiffener, an angle stiffener on that. So go ahead. What else? Before you continue on with structural, paint-wise, more paint than rust or more rust than paint?
Okay, there's more paint than rust.
So is that a violation?
No.
Because they can spot paint enough to make it pass, right?
Correct. But it looks like it has been painted. Some of the paint looks fairly fresh.
Right.
So, you know, it probably has some maintenance.
Perfect. So let's take a look at from underneath. What else? What other things you're seeing?
All right. The first thing I notice is that on the staircase and some of the stringers, the hardware on there, some of it it's a little difficult to tell, but
looks all original.
It kind of looks original to me. So that right there is a red flag telling me.
So this is a 50 to 75-year-old fire escape. And you minimally, how many refurbishments do you expect in 50 to 75 years?
Well, you need 5 per year, so...
No, refurbishments.
Per year, I'm sorry.
As far as the bolting, would you expect to see one bolt change on this fire escape in a 50 to 75-year cycle? You would normally see, in the critical connections, you'd see one bolt swap out. In the critical connections, which are usually the treads? Stringers. Brackets and supports. And rail posts?
Yes.
Do you see any of that from down below, just on what you can see with the naked eye? Are you seeing any hex head bolts?
No, I don't see any hex head bolts, and I see also, in general, a lot of